Okay, this is part two of the creative brief, and I'm looking at HubSpot's. You kind of need to watch part one to know the philosophy on this, but this is part two because now we're not just looking at the parts of the creative brief. We're going to look at how you make the creative brief. So let's look. Step one: the teams who need assistance from the creative team will retrieve the creative brief template from a repository like OneDrive, Google Drive, or an online form. Okay, have a template you can share. Great. The team that is requesting the project will complete the brief according to the team's needs and goals. Oh, yeah? Oh, it's not according. Yeah, whatever. That doesn't need to be said. Seems like AI probably wrote this. The completion of the creative brief starts with the team requesting the project so that they can explain their vision and goals clearly to the creative team. Yeah, that is the goal. So they can explain their vision. You kind of, if you're giving me a big old vision, dude, please don't. A creative writer, a copywriter who's writing ads needs to come in the next day and reacquaint himself with the brief, one page. And so that person can absorb it quickly again and be reminded, oh, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing here. Okay. And then gets to work. Do not clutter their mind with a bunch of details that don't matter. Don't do it because they won't refer to the creative brief because it'll be too complicated. And then they'll give you something off target. Don't do it. One page. What is it we're selling? Who's it for? And why does it matter to them? That's all we care about. Okay, step three. From there, the brief is sent back to the creative team to review. I would say present the creative brief to your team. Don't send it, present it. Make a video. Allow them to ask questions. If here's what's going to happen if you're good at your job and you're serious about being an account planner, which is usually the person who makes creative briefs, then you're going to send it to them. No, you're going to present it to them and they're going to ask you questions and you're going to say, that's a good question. Here's where I wrote that. Or that's a good question. Here's the decision on that based on what I know. Let me do the edit and then send it back to you corrected. But what I'm not going to do as a strategist is leave things ambiguous that are things that they need to know in order to write good creative copy. Okay. They'll be looking for time from there. The brief sent back to the creative team. They'll be looking for timelines, resources, and time budget requirements. I would not put timelines. I would not put resource. What kind of resources are you hoping that they'll go find? Are we talking about images? Well, then that should be something that they can look at somewhere else. That doesn't go on the creative brief. The creative brief gets what is it, who's it for, why does it matter? If you want to add these things and budget requirements, don't put that in the creative brief. The budget requirements, put it in some kind of media brief or something. If you're talking about media budget, if you're talking about creative budget, just tell them how many hours they have in Asana or whatever task manager you use. Don't put it in the creative brief. It doesn't go there. Okay. If they have any questions, they'll go back to the team who wrote the brief and finalize the details. Yes, exactly. But it won't be a team who wrote the brief. It'll be an account planner. It's not a team. It's an account planner. It's someone who knows the client, knows the more importantly than knowing the client is knowing the client's audience, knowing who you're talking to. So a lot of times the account manager, the person who knows the client best and is responsible for the client relationship, will work with the account planner so the account manager cares about the client. The account planner cares about the client's audience. And I've even heard some people be so bold as to say, as an account planner, I don't care what you want, client. I don't care what you want. I care what your audience wants because that's who's going to buy your stuff. And that's what's going to make you successful. Not what you want, what your customers want, what your clients, who your audience wants. And that's kind of a good tension to have there. And so the account planner is the one responsible. Don't have a team. There's no accountability with a team. Like, who's responsible? Have a planner, an expert in the client's audience. Yeah. If they have questions, they'll go back to the team. No, they'll go back to the account planner who's responsible, who wrote the brief, and they'll finalize the details. The account planner is responsible for making sure the brief makes sense to the creatives. If it doesn't make sense to the creatives, either you have such a junior creative that you need to figure something else out, or you need to team two creatives up, which is something you can totally do. And it's actually a really good idea. Um, more on that if you want to know, let me know. And or where was I? Um, or it is the account planner who is not doing his or her job. It's not making things concise. He or she is not being a very good storyteller with the data. All right, step 5. After the project is kicked off, sometimes with the help of a project manager. Sure, yeah. I mean, this can happen. The creative brief can be written during the project if it's a bigger project. So this probably assumes that the project is the whole project is like to make the creative. And usually a campaign project will start with research for situation analysis or a competitor analysis. Then it'll move to a target audience research, which may involve interviews and things like that. Then it moves to the creative brief. And so you have a bigger project there. You might actually be in the project before you start writing the creative brief. So the timing may be off on this one. Who will check in with stakeholders on the project and keep everything on schedule within scope and within budget. Yeah, the project manager does that. Step 6, once the project is complete, both teams will review the deliverables. And I hate how it covers this. I want to highlight it. Once the project is complete, both teams will review the deliverables against the creative brief to ensure everything is completely correct. Okay, that is one of the glories of having a creative brief because everybody is accountable now to the creative brief. That is the strategy. So now if a copywriter is not delivering what you want, but they show you the creative brief and they say, this is what you said, right? And then this is what I delivered. And then you're like, oh yeah, that is what I said, right? Or if the copywriter is not pulling their weight and you need to know like, hey, where's the problem? Well, you look at the creative brief and then you can say, we asked you to do this and you didn't do that. We may need to find another copywriter because we can't get you to read the creative briefs and understand them and concept from them. And that's very possible too. But the creative brief helps put accountability where accountability needs to be, where it should be. All right. The format. So that's great. I think that's good. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the format.